Social media nowadays makes it very easy for photographers to compare themselves with others. This can lead to self-doubt, feelings of failure, and imposter syndrome. Recently, I've watched videos from James Popsys and Bebbington about signs that you might be a better photographer than you think. And I thought it might be a fun idea to come up with my own list and encourage others to come up with their own, because pride comes from within. When you look at your old photos, you actually think that they're not as good as you thought they were when you first captured them. So it's going to be very embarrassing, but who the hell takes bad photos from Iceland? Having this habit of looking back at your old work, I think, is a very invaluable trait in photography, because it does mean that you're striving to improve in every shot that you take. And it could also mean that you are evolving in terms of your photography journey. Your styles and preferences may change over time after all. But that said, we shouldn't be too self-critical, and otherwise we'll just think we're very, very horrible photographers. If every shot that we take, we're always going to be nitpicking on every single mistake. So I think I'm going to lump that point about having photos that you are completely proud of, photos that no matter what other people say, you can feel no negativity towards it. Some examples at the top of my head would be the very first time that I captured the sea of clouds or cloud inversion here in Hong Kong. That was just a really, really memorable time for me, just standing at the top of the mountain, overlooking the city that I live in, being swallowed completely by a sea of clouds. Always remember that the worth of your photos can only be determined by you, the photographer. The next real sign that you're going to be a good photographer is that your photography mode never stops, no matter where you are. Just walking down the street, or going to the grocery, or even when you're looking through a garbage can. And I keep looking back at the times when I'm walking around with my friends and then I interrupt the entire conversation just to blurt out, "That's going to be a good shot." And then I end up having no more friends because they find that trait annoying. And there's going to be a Japanese philosophy called the Ichigo Ichie. And I don't know if I just butchered the pronunciation. But what it basically teaches us is to treat each moment as once in a lifetime. And this is something that I fully appreciated as I did more street photography in the past year. Even though I walk by the same streets, there's going to be a different personality that's going to be walking by the frame, different cloud formation in the sky, or just different colors that I'm going to be noticing in the frame. Some good example at the top of my head, I don't know when I'll be lucky enough to be able to capture a bird in flight in this particular part of the frame with a beautiful sunset in the background, even though I keep walking by this part of the harbor on a daily basis. Or another good example, I don't know when's the next time I'm going to be sailing across the Philippine Sea and then spot a rainbow in the middle of nowhere. Who knows? As you see more and more of these photos, going out when most people would probably just stay in bed is probably another good sign that you're a better photographer than you think. For sunrises, very, very deep and heavy fog. A very good example on when this can apply is when you're doing some travel. Whenever you go to very popular tourist locations, if you go there before the sunrise, highly likely the other people that's going to be with you are also photographers taking that shot. Sacrificing a little bit of sleep to take photos is a damn good sign that you are thinking about giving your photos the best possible chance that it's going to be much better than a random snap. And you also have a better understanding probably on the interaction of light within your photos, because those times will really change the way your image looks. Speaking of the weather, showing up when the conditions don't really align with your original plan, or pushing through even though the chances of the weather improving is quite slim. That's a very good sign, because I think having that sort of resilience in photography is a very, very commendable trait, because you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. I think a good photographer is someone that embodies that very resilient characteristics, because you just know that if you stay at home and then those magical moments actually happen, you're just going to beat yourself up about it. You'd rather face 90% of the worst conditions over and over again in the hopes that today will be those magical 10% of moments. Don't put things off to tomorrow for something that you can take today. And personally for me, I don't really do photography full time, and I'm just really trying to juggling around my time with, my socials, my work, and all the other things that I want to do. The next sign is probably the most important, and that's going to be when you feel offended whenever someone praises your camera that it takes good photos. I'm just kidding, because personally I don't really mind those comments, because I know that the people who say those lines probably aren't even photographers and they shouldn't be too offended about it, I guess. Ignorance is bliss, they say. But the next real point that I wanted to make is that you can't really be a good photographer if all the photos you take are just trying to copy off what you saw on social media. I totally get it. Honeypot locations are famous for a reason. You have a very strong subject. And personally, I do like taking photos of those. If I'm going to be spending a lot of time, a lot of effort to visit a particular location, then might as well take the photo, right? Mount Fuji, Mount Bromo, Matterhorn. These are all mountains. But I think a good photographer is someone who takes pride and joy whenever they find a composition on their own. This is even more true when you find photos in, let's say, boring locations. I said this before in a takeaway when I did a 7 daily photography challenge. Epic photos from epic places are expected. If you did a bad job, you fucked up. But finding good photos in boring places, then you did the right job. And boring is actually very subjective as well. What is boring for me might not be boring for you. My local neighborhood here in Hong Kong, to me, it's already very boring. I pass by it over and over again. But for someone who's not living in Hong Kong, my neighborhood is going to be a street photography gem. And I know that we are going to be products of our own inspirations, the things that we see, the people we interact with. But there is going to be some form of pride, joy, and excitement when we make those photos as ours. After some time, you do this again and again, you find yourself not really thinking about the compositional rules that much, or applying them comes very naturally to you. The very first time that I heard about the rule of thirds was from my sister. And many years ago, whenever we go on our family vacations, visiting new places, our family photos will always be taken with the rule of thirds in consideration. But then after a while, I don't know, you just sort of evolve in trying out different perspectives, and sometimes you even break them because you're a damn rebel. With so many techniques and considerations out there, you somehow understand that one compositional guide can't really be the best, right? But whenever you take the photos, you go for what you think is the best. And that trust in yourself that you're making the right judgment call in terms of your composition is a really good sign that you've come a long way in your photography journey. So those are going to be the points that I'm going to be coming up on my list. And this is really just for my own benefit, for me to look back on whenever I feel, let's say, the creativity burnout or I feel demotivated. Hopefully this list encourages you into coming up with your own. You don't need to copy mine. This is my list. And maybe you don't even agree with the things that I just said, or you want to add some more of your own points as well. That's completely up to you. That's fine. But somehow I hope that I was able to put you into the good photographer bucket. So see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.